Airline threw him out for no reason. He took $4 billion in revenge. It started like any normal flight. The boarding area was busy, voices echoing, wheels of suitcases rolling, and people checking phones and sipping coffee. A man in his 40s, dressed in dark jeans, a simple gray shirt, and clean loafers, walked calmly to the first-class gate. He wasn't loud, no sunglasses, no gold chains, just a quiet kind of confidence. You wouldn't look twice unless you noticed the watch on his wrist, worth more than most cars. His name was Elias. He gave the agent his passport and boarding pass. She smiled. "We've upgraded you to premium, sir, based on your loyalty record." He smiled back, nodded. "Thank you." No fuss, no small talk. He moved toward the line. Near him, an older woman struggled with her suitcase. The carpet had caught one of the wheels. Without hesitation, Elias stepped forward. "May I?" he asked gently. She looked up, grateful. "Oh, yes, please. This silly thing hates me." He lifted the bag and placed it beyond the stuck spot. She smiled. "Such a gentleman, my grandson should take notes." But someone else was watching. A man in a tailored navy suit, cufflinks flashing under the airport lights, frowned at the scene. He didn't say anything. Not yet. But his eyes lingered on Elias a little too long. Then he looked away. A few minutes later, boarding began. Elias walked onto the plane, quiet as always. First class seat 3A, window. He placed his leather bag in the overhead, sat down, and pulled out his phone. Then came the couple from earlier. The man in the navy suit, the woman with perfect blonde hair and a pearl necklace. They stopped by his row. "I believe you're in our seat," the man said flatly. Elias looked at his ticket. "I'm in 3A. The woman added, "We're in 3B and C. I'm Beatrice. This is my husband." No introduction from the husband. Just a cold look. Elias stood up to let them in. He noticed the woman clutched her purse tighter, keeping it in her lap instead of placing it under the seat. Soon, a flight attendant arrived to offer drinks. She served the couple first, then paused. Only after a moment did she hand Elias his water. "Flight 2187 to Chicago, ready for departure," the voice said over the speaker. Just as Elias leaned back, the same flight attendant returned. "Sir, may I see your boarding pass again?" Elias raised his brow. "Sure." He showed his digital ticket. "Is there a problem?" he asked. "Just a routine check," she said. But her tone had changed. Colder. He looked around. No one else was being asked, not the couple beside him. Not anyone. Moments later, the man leaned toward the attendant. "He's been rude since he sat down," he whispered, loud enough for Elias to hear. The woman nodded. "Honestly, we feel intimidated." Elias blinked. "I haven't said more than 10 words." "There it is again," the woman said softly. That tone. Everything got quiet. The flight attendant said she needed to talk to the captain. A young woman in the back, quietly recording on her phone, adjusted her camera. Then the captain came out, spoke quietly with the crew, and then 2 security officers stepped onto the plane. They didn't ask many questions. "Sir, we need you to come with us." Elias stayed calm. "On what grounds?" The crew reported disruptive behavior. "I haven't been disruptive," he replied. The second guard added, "Please don't make this difficult." All around them, phones came up. Some passengers looked away, others watched with curiosity. Elias stood, no yelling, no scene. He picked up his bag and walked down the aisle. But as they reached the door, one guard leaned close. "You people always think the rules don't apply." Elias said nothing, just looked him in the eye, held his gaze, then walked off the plane, and As he stepped into the terminal, away from the cameras and noise, he reached for his phone. He dialed a number. A calm voice answered. "Pull the investment," Elias said. "All of it. Today." Because what the airline didn't know was who they had just thrown out. As Elias walked away from the gate, the buzz of the airport returned to normal. No apology, no one chasing after him, just a few whispers and half-hearted stares. But Elias didn't look back. He walked calmly through the terminal, like a man with nowhere to be, but everything to do. Outside the glass windows, he could still see the plane on the tarmac. Flight 2187. The same flight that had removed him without reason. He stopped by a quiet corner near a row of vending machines, pulled out his phone again. No anger in his voice, no raised tone. "It's me," he said. "Pull the investment, all of it. Don't wait till Monday. Today." The voice on the other end hesitated. "Are you sure?" "I'm certain," Elias said, watching the plane slowly pull away from the gate. They just made a mistake they won't forget. What the airline didn't know was that Elias Ward wasn't just a businessman. He was the businessman behind their most important systems, the software running their flight operations, customer data, and booking engines. His company had quietly built and maintained it for years. He wasn't flashy. He never wanted headlines. Never needed to be the loudest voice in the room. That's why most of them didn't recognize him, and maybe that's why they thought they could treat him like nothing. But Elias Ward wasn't nothing, far from it. As the call ended, Elias stood there for a moment, letting the weight of what had happened settle. Not just for him, but for what it represented. This wasn't the first time. It wasn't even the worst. But this time, it hit differently. Because now, he had power. Real power. Not just money, but leverage. And for once, he was ready to use it. He left the airport without a word, no press, no interviews. But someone else had already spoken for him. A video had gone live, shot from inside the plane. The title, "Flying While Black, Thrown Off for Nothing." The caption read, "He was polite, quiet, did nothing wrong, but they still made him leave. When will it stop?" The video spread like wildfire. By the time Elias reached his home, an elegant penthouse in Manhattan, it had already crossed 500,000 views. His assistant Marlon was waiting by the elevator. "They're already calling," he said. "Aero Sky is in a panic. They don't know who you are, yet." Elias said nothing, just walked into his office, sat down, and opened his laptop. The screen displayed a dashboard, investments, partnerships, contracts. At the top of the list, Aero Sky Airlines. "I want everything reviewed," Elias said, scrolling through the numbers. "Technology contracts, funding terms, emergency exit clauses." "You're really doing this?" Marlon asked. Elias looked up. "They dragged me off a plane I paid for, in a seat I earned. I'm not burning bridges, Marlon. I'm burning a system." As he spoke, the city glowed outside his window. Below, people rushed to meetings, dinners, dates, clueless about the storm quietly forming above them. Elias tapped on a photo frame beside him. His mother's smile beamed from behind the glass. The same woman who'd raised him with next to nothing. Who'd worked double shifts and saved pennies to send him to the best schools. Who'd once told him, "When the world tells you to sit down, that's when you stand up tallest." He hadn't gone looking for this fight, but it had found him, and he was ready. Meanwhile, across town, Aero Sky's corporate headquarters was anything but calm. The CEO barked orders, asking who this Elias Ward was and why their servers were now glitching. "He's pulling out," the CFO said, almost whispering. $4 billion, gone. And he owns part of our tech infrastructure. There was silence in the room, then panic. The same airline that thought they were removing a nameless, faceless man from their flight had just ejected the person who controlled their future, and they had no idea what was coming next. Elias closed his laptop, then looked out the window. This wasn't just about one flight anymore. It was about every single time someone like him was told, "You don't belong here." And this time, he wasn't walking away. He was about to walk through. By the time the sun came up the next morning, the video had already crossed 2 million views. People weren't just watching, they were reacting, sharing their own stories, tagging airlines, demanding answers. Justice for Elias, flying while black. Boycott Aerosky, the hashtags were trending. But while the internet burned with outrage, inside the walls of Aerosky's headquarters, it was cold panic. In a glass tower overlooking the city, executives gathered in a private boardroom, eyes glued to screens filled with red numbers. "We've lost 7% in stock value overnight," said the CFO, looking pale. "And there's more. Our back-end tech is being revoked. Systems are already starting to glitch." The CEO, a man named Victor who loved golf and power more than people, slammed his hand on the table. "How? Who gave them that authority?" The answer came softly. "Ward Global Ventures," the CTO said. "They own the tech and the funding." Victor blinked. "Ward? As in?" "Yes," the CTO said. "Elias Ward, the man we kicked off Flight 2187. No one spoke. He wasn't just any passenger. He was the reason their airline ran at all. Meanwhile, back at Ward Global Ventures, Elias was already 10 steps ahead. Dressed simply, sipping black coffee, he sat in front of a massive screen showing maps, systems, and financial data. Marlon stood nearby, phone buzzing every few minutes. "Victor's trying to call," he said. "Also his lawyers, also his board." Elias didn't even look up. "Let them sweat. You want to issue a press statement?" "No," Elias said. "Not yet. Let the story write itself first." He opened an old email, one he hadn't looked at in years. Software engineer role. Aerosky, "We regret to inform you, not a cultural fit." That was 15 years ago. Elias had just graduated from MIT, top of his class, bright-eyed, hungry. But when he walked into that interview room, he felt it immediately. The tension, the doubt, the fake smiles. And a week later, the rejection came. He never forgot the words. "Doesn't match our culture." He didn't fight back then. He just started building something better. Quietly, carefully, brick by brick. And now that same airline, the one that told him he didn't belong, was held together by the very code he wrote. He looked at Marlon. "Let's pull the first plug. Back-end systems. Make it slow." At Aerosky's main terminal, the effects were almost immediate. Gate agents stared at frozen screens. Flight schedules were wrong. Bags misrouted. Calls flooded in. Passengers were getting angry. Victor paced in his office, sweat gathering at his collar. "Find a backup system," he shouted. "We have to restore operations." "There is no backup," said the head of IT. "Ward owns 60% of U.S. aviation software. We can't just replace it." Victor cursed under his breath. He still couldn't believe it. That quiet man in seat 3A, the one he ignored, the one the crew pushed out, was now threatening to sink his empire. "This is a PR problem," said Kendra, the airline's head of public relations. "We need to go on TV. Apologize. Say it was a misunderstanding." Victor spun toward her. "We are not apologizing. That man's video is biased. He was aggressive." Kendra stared at him. "There's a recording, Victor. He didn't raise his voice once." Victor looked away. He didn't care about the truth. He cared about control. Back in Elias's office, the storm was only just beginning. Marlon pulled up a file. "Found something interesting," he said. "A compliance officer at Aerosky tried to blow the whistle 3 years ago. She was fired quietly. NDA signed. but her name's in the system. Ava Grayson. Elias leaned forward. Track her down. Offer her a job. You're serious? She tried to fix the system before. I want her to help tear it down now. That night, as the city lights blinked on, Elias sat alone in his apartment, watching the news. A panel of anchors debated the situation. Should this man be praised or feared? Does he have too much power? Or is he finally using power the way it should be used? Elias muted the TV. He wasn't interested in opinions, only in results. He picked up the small photo frame of his mother. Her eyes, forever kind. Her voice echoed in his head. Draw your line, baby, and don't move it for anyone. Outside, the world was changing. Inside, Elias had only one thought. They threw me off a plane. Now I'm about to bring down their whole fleet. And this was just the beginning. By the time Monday morning hit, things had already shifted from, is this real? To how bad is it? Inside Aerosky's boardrooms. But outside, in the real world, it was no longer just about one man. It had become a movement. People were talking, everywhere. From city buses to airport lounges, barbershops, schools. In comments under the viral video, more and more people started sharing their own stories. Same thing happened to me on a business trip. They looked at me like I didn't belong in first class. My mom was forced off a flight with no reason. The comments weren't quiet anymore. The world was listening now. But Elias Ward wasn't just watching. He was working. Inside his office, Elias leaned over a desk filled with folders, names, case files. Names of people who had once spoken up and been shut down. He clicked on one of them, Ava Grayson, former compliance officer, let go from Aerosky 3 years ago. She had raised concerns internally about passenger removals, racial profiling, and internal training practices. Instead of being taken seriously, she was told to let it go. A month later, she was unemployed, silenced with an NDA. Elias turned to Marlon. Find her, he said. Tell her I want to talk. No pressure, but I think she deserves to be heard. A day later, Ava sat across from Elias at a quiet coffee shop in Brooklyn. She looked cautious, guarded. I wasn't sure I should come, she said. I understand, Elias replied. You lost a lot. Ava nodded. They ruined my career. I've been applying to jobs below my qualifications just to stay afloat. All because I told the truth. Elias looked her in the eye. You were right, and they buried it. But now you have a chance to help me dig it back up. She studied him. I've seen people make promises like that before. Big talk, big plans. But when the spotlight fades, this isn't about the spotlight, Elias said. This is about building something that doesn't need one. She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her purse and pulled out an old flash drive. This is everything I kept, she said. Emails, memos, one of the training videos. Elias took it carefully, and just like that, the fire had new fuel. What was on that flash drive wasn't just bad, it was explosive. Emails from executives talking about how to quietly flag high-risk passengers. Slides from a training deck teaching staff to look for urban speech and clothing that doesn't match class level. And worst of all, a video. In it, a trainer stood in front of a room of gate agents and flight attendants. Be extra. Cautious with passengers who look out of place in premium seating, the trainer said. We're not saying be rude, just be alert. You know what I mean. The room had nodded. Some had laughed. Elias didn't. He watched it with a tight jaw, fists clenched on his knees. They knew, he said softly. They always knew. The next move came fast. Trevor Lynn, a respected investigative journalist Elias trusted, was brought in. Elias showed him the flash drive. This is big, Trevor said, stunned. You sure you want this out there? Elias nodded. It's not. Just about what happened to me. It's about all the people who never got a second chance. Trevor started making calls, quietly confirming names, backgrounds. More stories started surfacing. Flight attendants who were told to watch certain passengers. Pilots passed over for promotions. Staff of color who were fired without explanation. And people were ready to talk now. Ava worked beside Elias late into the night. For the first time in 3 years, she felt like someone believed her. Really believed her. "You could have walked away from this," she said, glancing at him. "I did for years," Elias replied. But walking away didn't change anything. Across town, in Aerosky's headquarters, panic was turning into desperation. The CTO rushed into a meeting with the CEO. "We've lost access to 60% of our systems. Flight bookings are being canceled in bulk. Something's happening." "We need to buy time," Victor muttered. "Get legal. Threaten him. Say we'll sue." Kendra, their PR head, looked up from her tablet. "We can't sue a man for using his legal rights. We'll say he's endangering passengers by pulling the safety tech." Kendra frowned. "It's still active, and it was his tech that prevented a mid-air issue last night. You really want to go public with that lie?" Victor didn't answer. Back in Elias's office, the screen showed numbers dropping. Stock prices, support scores, ticket sales. "We've hit a nerve," Marlon said. Elias nodded. "We're not done." He looked at the camera crew that had just arrived, lights being tested. Mics clipped in. He took a breath. "Let's go on record." Because the time for silence had ended, and the reckoning had just begun. Elias never wanted to be famous. He liked working in the background, building things, helping people quietly. But now, the silence wasn't helping anyone, especially not the ones still being silenced. So that morning, for the first time since the flight, Elias stepped in front of a camera. The interview wasn't fancy. No dramatic music, no makeup, just a small studio, a table, 2 chairs, a mic. Across from him sat Trevor Lynn. "We're live in 5, the producer said. Elias looked calm but focused, like a man with something to say, and finally the space. To say it, the light turned red and the interview began. "Mr. Ward," Trevor said, "you've stayed quiet until now, but today, you're here." "Why?" Elias took a breath. "Because it's no longer about what happened to me. It's about what happens to people like me every day, and no one listens." He spoke clearly, but never raised his voice. His words were steady, but you could feel the weight behind them. He explained what happened on the flight, the cold looks, the whispered lies, the forced removal, but more importantly, he explained what happened after. "I own the company that built their tech," Elias said. "Their bookings, their schedules, their safety systems. My company keeps their planes in the air." Trevor leaned forward. "And now you've pulled your investment." "Yes," Elias said, "because they've proven they don't value people. Not the ones who look like me, not the ones who tried to speak up before." He mentioned Ava, the whistleblower they fired, the others who were silenced. He didn't name names, but he shared just enough to show this wasn't an accident. This was a pattern. Then Trevor asked the question everyone wanted to hear. Some say you're using your wealth and power for revenge, that you're hurting the airline and risking jobs just to settle a personal score. What do you say to that? Elias didn't blink. If standing up for yourself is called revenge, maybe. "We need to redefine the word justice," he said. "I didn't pull out funding for attention. I pulled out because they never earned the right to keep it." The interview hit the internet like a lightning bolt. Clips spread everywhere. Headlines exploded. Elias Ward breaks. Silence. And breaks the internet. Quiet billionaire speaks loud truths. This is not about one man. It's about a broken system. Celebrities shared it. CEOs reacted. Other passengers, people who had been profiled or mistreated, posted their own stories using the hashtag #We'reElias But not everyone was celebrating. At Aero Sky headquarters, the CEO sat in front of his own screen, face tight, lips pressed. Victor. Langford wasn't used to losing, and right now, he was losing everything. "We need to flip this narrative," he growled. "How?" asked Kendra, the PR chief. "You already refused to apologize. You ignored warnings, and now your dirty laundry is all over national news." Victor didn't listen. "We say he's dangerous. That pulling tech is putting passengers at risk." "You sure about that?" she asked. Victor nodded. "He wants war? Let's give him one." That afternoon, the airline held their own press conference. Cameron Voss, the new COO, polished, well-spoken, and hand-picked for damage control, stood in front of the cameras. Earlier today, Mr. Elias Ward made public statements about his actions toward Aero Sky Airlines. "While we appreciate his right to speak, we are deeply concerned about the consequences of his decisions." He paused, carefully. "We rely on safety systems provided by Mr. Ward's company. These systems are essential. And without them, our passengers could be at risk. We call on Mr. Ward to put public safety above personal feelings." The implication was clear. If something went wrong, it would be his fault. Within hours, the media had a new question. Is Elias Ward endangering lives? It was exactly what Victor had wanted. Confusion, doubt, division. But then, something unexpected happened. News broke that Flight 753, a short hop to Denver, had experienced a sudden drop in altitude midair. For a few terrifying seconds, the plane dropped before the pilots regained control. No one was hurt, but passengers were shaken. Social media lit up. People started pointing fingers. Some blamed Elias. He pulled his systems. He's putting people in danger. This is going too far. But what the airline didn't expect was the truth. Because Elias still had access to the system, his team still had logs, and the log showed something important. His software saved that plane. Mechanical error triggered a drop, but the collision prevention AI designed by Elias's company alerted the crew just in time. Without it, the plane might not have recovered. Back in Elias's office, he reviewed the data with Marlon and Ava. "They tried to use this against us," Marlon said, shaking his head. "And it backfired," Ava added. "Big time." "Now," Elias said quietly, "now we speak again." That evening, Elias released a new statement. He included the flight data, proof that his system was still active, still saving lives. Even as they blamed him, he wrote only one sentence. "My issue was never with the passengers, only with the people who keep failing them." The public flipped. Even those who had doubted him now turned back in support. The hashtag changed. Stand with Elias, people. We're no longer just watching a story unfold. They were part of it. And somewhere, in a small apartment far from Wall Street or boardrooms, a mother looked at her young son and whispered, "One day, if someone ever tries to push you out of your seat, I hope you remember this man, and I hope you stay standing." 3 days after Elias Ward's public statement, the world was still catching its breath. Flight data proved what many already believed deep down. Elias wasn't trying to destroy the airline. He was trying to wake it up. But what happened next? No one saw coming. On a quiet Thursday morning, Elias posted a message across all social platforms. Just one sentence. "Sometimes, when the system throws you out, the best answer is to build your own." The internet lit up. Speculation flew. Was he planning a lawsuit? A bigger protest? But later that day, Elias held a press conference in a wide, open space that used to be an airplane hangar, now transformed into something sleek and modern. Reporters filled the room. Cameras clicked. Even competitors watched from behind screens. Elias stepped onto the small stage, dressed in a black blazer and simple gray shirt. No notes, no teleprompter, just his voice. And a quiet fire in his eyes. "Not long ago, I was removed from a flight I paid for," he began. "I said very little. I made no scene. But I was asked to leave, not for what I did, but for what I looked like. He paused, letting the room fall into silence. I could have stayed quiet, could have made a few calls, patched things up behind the scenes. That would have been easier. But that would have also been a betrayal of every person who's ever been treated as less, for no reason. Then he smiled gently. Not with pride, but with purpose. So I decided to build something better. The screen behind him lit up. A logo appeared, clean, modern, a bird in flight above the words, New Sky Airways. Everyone deserves a seat, gasps, applause. A ripple of disbelief and excitement. This is not just a new airline, Elias continued. It's a new standard. For fairness, for dignity, for innovation, for inclusion. He explained what New Sky would be. Planes built with state-of-the-art safety tech. Hiring practices designed to lift talent, not filter it. A customer service model that listens, not lectures. No more hidden profiling. No more fake apologies. Just a simple promise. You are treated like you belong. Because you do. Ava Grayson stepped forward next. Her voice was steady, though her eyes glistened. 3 years ago, I tried to speak up inside Aero Sky, she said. I was fired for it. Today, I'm here as Chief Operating Officer of New Sky. The applause grew louder. People rose to their feet. Journalists scrambled to update their headlines, but Elias wasn't done. I didn't want to create a revenge airline, he said. I wanted to create a better one, and that means including voices that were ignored for too long. He pointed to the side of the stage. From the shadows walked an older man, gray-haired, tall, proud. Captain Henry Grayson, Ava's father. 15 years ago, he had been blacklisted from the industry for challenging unsafe, racially biased decisions on a flight. Now, he walked back into aviation, not as an employee, but as a founding trainer and advisor. As the room gave him a standing ovation, Elias spoke quietly. They pushed him out for doing the right thing. We're bringing him back for the same reason. Later, Elias announced another major piece of New Sky's future, the Grayson Ward Scholarship Fund, $100 million dedicated to training the next generation of underrepresented pilots, engineers, and aviation leaders. Talent is everywhere, Elias said, but opportunity isn't. This fund changes that. And it was already working. Students at HBCUs, young women in engineering schools, first-generation immigrants, all started applying the next day. Meanwhile, across town, Aero Sky was falling apart. Board meetings were chaos. Leadership was scrambling. Bookings had dropped by nearly 40% since Elias's interview. One board member said quietly, "We're not just losing passengers, we're losing faith." Then news broke that several of Aero Sky's own pilots had applied to join New Sky. Some had left already. One even posted his resignation letter online. After 12 years of being overlooked, underappreciated, and silenced, I'm done. Mr. Ward, if you've got a seat open, I'd like to fly for you. That letter had over 3 million likes in 24 hours. As the press conference ended, Elias stepped off the stage. A young girl, maybe 9 years old, with wide eyes and curly hair, approached him quietly. She wore a tiny pilot pin. "My mom says I can be anything," she said. "I want to fly a plane one day." Elias knelt to her level and smiled. "Good," he said, "because we're going to need pilots, and you'll be one of the best." She beamed. Back in his office that night, Elias sat alone, looking out over the city. Marlon entered, tablet in hand. "You know what people are calling this, right?" Elias looked at him. "They're calling it the Ward effect." Elias chuckled softly. "That's a lot for one man." "You started something bigger than you," Marlon said. "I hope so. Elias replied. Because this can't just be about me. It has to last long after I'm gone. As he turned off, the lights, one phrase echoed in his mind, his mother's voice from long ago. Draw the line, baby, and never let them push you back. He had drawn it. Now he had built something on it. The airport looked different now, brighter, more welcoming. Faces of every shade moved through the terminal. Staff uniforms had changed too, modern but practical, stitched with pride. The gate. Signs didn't just show destinations. They displayed small messages. You belong here. Every voice matters. Welcome home. And in front of Gate 14, a little girl with curly hair held her mother's hand. She couldn't stop staring at the display on the wall, a photo of the two pilots flying her plane. Mom, she whispered. The captain looks like Grandpa. Her mother smiled. That's Captain Ramirez, one of the best they've got. The little girl's eyes lit up. I want to be a pilot too. A nearby flight attendant overheard and crouched down. Well, New Sky has a program just for that. Future flyers. Want a sticker? The girl grinned, nodding. And in that simple moment, two strangers, two smiles, one dream shared. You could feel it. This wasn't just an airline anymore. It was a movement in motion. Far from the buzz of the terminal, Elias Ward sat quietly on a bench overlooking the IE Hudson River. No cameras, no bodyguards. Just him, a soft breeze, and a folded letter in his pocket. He looked older now, a little grayer, but more peaceful too. His phone buzzed. Marlin. IPO went better than expected. We're trending everywhere again. You want a recap? Elias smiled. He didn't reply yet. Instead, he reached for the letter. It was handwritten on worn paper. Elias, if you're reading this, I probably didn't live to see it, but I knew you'd do something important. Just remember, power means nothing if it doesn't lift people. Draw the line, baby. Make them feel it. And when they try to push you out, build something they can't tear down. Love, Mom. His throat tightened. He looked out at the river, letting the sun warm his face. He didn't know what moment the world really changed. Maybe it was the day he made that phone call, or maybe it was years earlier when he was a kid, helping his mom count coins on the kitchen table. Maybe it wasn't about one moment at all. Maybe it was about momentum. Back at New Sky's main building, a sleek headquarters made of glass, stone, and reclaimed materials from decommissioned jets, Ava Grayson led a panel on equity in global transit. The room was full. People listened. Hard. From trains to buses to ships, industries had started applying New Sky's model: inclusive hiring, transparent systems, and ethical accountability. And Ava? She wasn't just the COO anymore. She had become a voice for transformation across the entire transportation world. Her father, Captain Grayson, now retired for the second time, mentored young pilots part-time. Every Friday, he walked the flight, simulators with kids who never dreamed they could fly, until now. He liked to remind them, I didn't get to retire the first time. I was forced out. But now, I choose to walk away. And that makes all the difference. Meanwhile, Aero Sky? It still existed, but just barely. After bankruptcy, rebranding, and leadership changes, it had become a small regional carrier. A name, no longer feared. A brand no longer trusted. A business school case study about what happens when you ignore a warning and underestimate a quiet man in seat 3A. Victor Langford had vanished from public life. After a short prison sentence for financial misconduct, he now lived quietly in Florida, far from the world he once ruled. The last photo of him, taken at a second-tier aviation conference, showed a man staring off into space, unrecognizable from the suit and power days. No headlines, no legacy, just silence. Back at the airport, the little girl and her mother boarded. Their new sky flight, seat 12A. She pressed her face to the window, watching ground crews work like clockwork. Every person mattered. Every role respected. "Mom," she whispered, "do you think Captain Ramirez ever got told he didn't belong?" Her mom looked at her and said, "Probably, but you see where he is now, right?" The girl nodded. "Right up front." As the plane climbed into the clouds, Elias finally texted Marlon back. "Elias, let's talk tomorrow. I'm heading out soon." Marlon, "Ghana?" Elias, "Yeah, time to walk where Mom once dreamed to stand." 2 weeks later, Elias stood barefoot on a beach in Ghana. Waves kissed the shore. Children played in the sand. Elders shared stories under palms. He didn't post about the trip, didn't give interviews. He just was present, grounded, at peace. He stood facing the Atlantic, the same ocean his ancestors had once crossed in chains, now behind him, not ahead. He breathed in deep. No noise, no headlines, just legacy. On his flight home, he sat quietly in business class. The flight attendant approached. "Mr. Ward, Wood, you like anything before takeoff?" He smiled. "Just water. Thanks." She hesitated. "Sorry to bother you, but my brother's applying to the pilot academy you started. He used to think flying was for other people. But then he saw you on TV, so thank you." Elias nodded, warmed by her words. As she walked away, he looked out the window, high above the clouds. Below, somewhere in a small town, a boy dreamed of flying, and now, maybe he could. They removed him from a seat, so he built a sky where no one gets removed again. Everyone deserves a seat, and Elias Ward made sure of it. The end.